Hi, everyone, and welcome to another A and B Horror Movies video. I'm Aaron,
I'm Ben.
and today we are very excited to be joined by Glenn Morgan. Glenn, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks. I hope I'm looking like the great Oz. I don't have any,
I
I
love
don't have
it.
any
I love it.
separation back here.
And I've got to mention that you're in your attic, which is amazing because it goes really nicely with one of your films that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
All right.
okay. All right.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. So, Glenn, you are a director, a writer, a producer, an actor, an editor, maybe? I'm sure you wear many hats and you've done very many different things in your career throughout the years.
A lot of great editors help me, but no, I don't sit there.
Oh, you don't
and
do the
it.
editing. Okay,
I drink coffee.
fair enough. Awesome. Let's see. So you wrote and directed Black Christmas 2006, the remake of the classic 70s horror. You also wrote and directed Willard in 2003, another 70s remake, and that starred Crispin Glover and R. Lee Ermey. I think Laura Herring as well. Amazing cast there.
Yep.
Nicely done. So congrats. We are very excited to chat with you about these films. And then Ben, do you want to take a few other items?
Yeah, wrote her on a lot of popular series, including The X-Files, the latest Twilight Zone series, The Others, Millennium, Space Above and Beyond, and you also played a major role in 1986 movie Trick or Treat, which I think you also had a bit of work on the screenplay as well.
Heavy metal horror. That's such a great movie.
Yeah.
There you go. And actually, we forgot one other thing. You wrote the very first Final Destination, amazing film and series, and you also wrote part 3.
Yep.
All right. Amazing. Thank you so much for chatting with us today.
Nothing I've done is as good as your video collections, and I'm like picking things out as we're talking.
Oh, you're too kind.
I like the Rocketeer. I love that. I love the graphic novel.
Oh yeah. Very cool. We could spend hours talking about all of our movies.
Yeah, I know.
Well, let's see. Why don't we kick things off with Black Christmas? So my first question is, what was it like remaking the 1974 classic by Bob Clark?
Filming it and making it was great. And one of the best aspects of it was getting to know and become friends with Bob Clark. I mean, his film is a masterpiece. I think, we were talking about Halloween before we started taping. And, Halloween is like heavily influenced by Black Christmas. And it was something,
for sure.
That movie was just, it was always played like a pay cable. My family moved from central New York to San Diego back in the mid 70s. And that was like going to Mars. And so it was hard to make friends. And so my brother and I just watched this kind of precursor to HBO, and they showed Black Christmas, and we just watched it over and over. And Bob Clark, I think, is a very overlooked filmmaker, to have done Black Christmas, Christmas Story, Murder by Decree, Porky's. They're all very different. He was all very much like a very nice man. Is very supportive.
Talking. Didn't he do that too?
Yeah, right.
Look Who's Talking. Yeah. Don't forget that one.
Yeah. I really liked him, and he really, so to have his blessing and stuff was everything. So
I was just going to say, so he gave you his blessing on the film.
Yeah, he reminded me, I don't know if like Thomas Mitchell in It's a Wonderful Life, the uncle with the strings tied. He was a little kind of like mad scientist. Sometimes I'd call Bob and he'd be like, hello. And I'm like, that's Bob. And I'm like, Bob Clark. And he goes, who's calling? I'm like, this is Glenn Morgan. And he goes, oh, hi, Glenn. He would like, that kind of stuff. He was just a really great guy. And, awesome. I had trouble on that movie with Bob Weinstein. And at one point, Bob Clark's like, Glenn, I've never had anything like that in my career. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Fair enough. You just had somebody that you admired that was like, I don't know, we're in a weird spot. So I really, really admire and appreciate him.
Good answer.
Yeah. I've got to ask, how much pressure was on to make a remake of that classic? Did you sort of question doing it at all at any point, or?
no, I did what I did to make it a little different. I get, here's here's the thing. I think it goes into a question that maybe somebody wrote in, when you're getting
Mhm.
started, for me, with X-Files and the Final Destination stuff, for me, it's always like, well, you should do a horror movie. And if you can do a remake, it helps the marketing guys and stuff. So after Willard, like I really like Willard, but it
Mhm.
did not do well. I did not want to do a remake, but I was kind of in film jail a bit, and here comes this opportunity. My agent said, "Do you want to do Black Christmas?" And I'm like, "Yes." And you just kind of do it your way, and and then there was the people at 2929 wanted two killers, so that kind of becomes an influence on how you go about it and stuff. So um
Yeah, we get to meet Agnes for the first time.
that's right. Yeah.
Well,
Um,
just
Go ahead.
talking, saying this, wasn't we? That with the remake is what we like about that is it's not a complete sort of copy of the original. It sort of goes its own way. And we were saying that was good because if you're going to make a remake, don't make exactly the same because you might as well just watch the original, if you ask me. So I think
Yeah,
with what
I
you,
think that
Mhm.
I think that the reason, one, not a reason, but an aspect to do a remake is like maybe a piece didn't have like going back to Willard, like they didn't have CGI technology, or it might be a little lower budget, and there might be things that in the novel or Bob Clark might have said, well, I wanted to do this, but he didn't have the money or the means. And so you might want
Mhm.
to expand on certain
yeah,
things, or the times and the culture is different, so you want to talk about different aspects of
yeah,
that's within a piece. And just to do a blatant remake is like the sorry, but the that thing they did with Psycho is just like, I
Mhm.
don't
yeah,
like.
yeah.
It was
No, you
just
might as well
a
just watch it.
copy.
Yeah,
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good example. I had high hopes for that one. Well, you definitely, you up the kills, the suspense, the gore. We get more of a backstory with Billy. I mean, you definitely made it your own. You took it sort of one step further, and then, but you're also true to the original, I think.
yeah,
Perfect double feature, and it's amazing that it's got a following now and continues to grow in popularity. And I know people are asking about a physical release, but we'll get to that in a moment. One question I have, having watched Willard and Black Christmas, I really like your style as far as camera angles, the way you shoot from like the ground up or like the top down or from behind someone. I think it's a very unique style of filmmaking. Um, when you go into creating, at least for those two films, when you went into making them, what is the process? Do you storyboard everything out? Do you think about the camera angles in advance? How does that work? Or do you work with cinematographers who help you in that area? What's the process?
Well, on Willard was kind of, I think, I made a mistake. I think a lot of us film students hear the um, Hitchcock storyboarded everything. He was bored shooting the movie, and understand that. And actually,
Mhm.
uh, a collaborator that we worked with, Tom Wright, who did a lot of episodes of Space Above and Beyond and shot Second Unit, the car stuff on Final Destination. He did storyboards for Hitchcock, and so I got a lot of insight as to how that worked. And so I was so like nervous, it being my first time, that I just had it all worked out. But then when I got into, block a scene with Lee Ermey and Crispin, the two of them, they're both great, but they're very different. And I get nervous, like, well, maybe I should sit here, or I would do this. And then I'd be like terrified. Like, no, that would just throw all my scene out the window that I had storyboarded 2 months ago. And I think that's a huge mistake. You become just rigid into what you've done. So now I try
Hmm,
to have a
that
real
makes
good
sense.
idea, and then work with both Willard and um, Black Christmas and Final Destination were all shot by Rob McLaughlin, who went on to fame doing Game of Thrones and stuff. And he's just
Oh, cool.
a really great partner,
Very
Jim and I.
talented. Mhm.
Yeah, he's great. And then yeah, and then as well as the production designer, Mark Freeborn, he did a lot of time on, we met him on Millennium and he did Breaking Bad. Those guys are like, Rob McLaughlin and Quiet Moment ago. A cinematographer is as good as the stuff he gets to shoot. So you got to have a good production designer. And
course.
they were all friends and collaborators. So
Excellent.
I've got to ask, what
pardon?
time of year? I've got to ask, what time of year did you film Black Christmas? Because I'm always interested. It's obviously looks like it's cold outside. It looks really Christmassy, but obviously you probably didn't
Well,
film it.
Christmas is always for me. Even as a kid, it was kind of something about it that's scary. And
Yeah,
you think and especially I grew up in central New York, it was like really dark and it gets cold and snowy, and you have, the red and green lights, and back then there were those big bulbs, and they contrast against the black, and it's just kind of
Mhm.
a weird time. And then when you're a kid, you like this stranger comes down into your house and he deems whether you've been good or bad. It's kind of a creepy thought. And then once you start researching um the you know pagan traditions of Christmas that the Christians embraced because everybody liked it,
Mm.
that and Mary and Joseph were fleeing executions. There's really dark stuff going on there.
yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, look at Krampus.
That's
Um,
right. Yeah, right. Yeah.
do want to say one last thing about Black Christmas is I also really like the use of color. You use lots of reds and greens throughout.
Yeah.
And I think that really added to the story. And I like there was a lot of focusing in on the eyes, which I thought
Right.
was a nice touch too.
Yeah.
There's one scene when I think it's a flashback when Billy's in the Christmas tree and you go through the Christmas tree almost, and it's switching from red and green, and then you see him standing behind the tree. I just thought that was brilliant.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Let's talk a little bit about Willard. What was it like working with live rats? And was there anything that you didn't expect working with real animals?
When you go into that movie, it was like 20 years ago now,
Of
and
course.
Bill Carraro, who's a great line producer, is gone. I remember he was doing like Blade Runner 2049. Great, outstanding
Cool.
producer. And then we were like, how are we going to do this? And you get CGI people go, oh, we'll take care of it. Then you have animal trainers that go, no, we'll take care of it. And then we had animatronic guys, who was a guy Rick Lazzarini that Jim and I went to college with, and he's like, I'll take care of it. And so in prep, we'd go like, who's right? And then you find out that the rats who were trained by this man Boone Noir, who's one of the like all-time greats. When you go to his farm, you're like, oh, there's the dog from this. Oh, there's the cat from that. It's like better, seeing celebrities. And
That's
he would
cool.
say, these rats will be trained to run. This rat will be trained to go up Crispin's arm. And you get, a couple warm-ups and then about 4 or 5 takes, and then they'll be bored and not do it anymore. And he was absolutely right. So the rats, the animals were the best. You had to have CGI for the elevator shot when all the rats pour out. So when you had
Yep.
a multitude of rats, you had to go CGI, but animatronics, we didn't use that much. But out of all that, the rats were always like in a room, 72 degrees, and only one time did anybody get bit. And in a shot, someone doubling for Crispin's foot accidentally stepped on a rat and it defended itself. So,
Oh, thanks.
but in directing, like what you do is like, you have the kitchen floor and you have a bunch of trainers and they have like rounded up cardboard, like a circle.
Mm-hmm.
And they put some rats in there, and then on action, they all run, the trainers, but then what the rats are going to do is run to the side of the wall because they're
Look for
afraid
cover,
and
right?
do
They're
it.
trying to, yeah.
Right, that's their protection.
Mm.
And so you have 10 seconds of rats filling the floor before they run to the side of the set. And so you're doing that, and if you have to run out to kind of say something to Crispin, all of a sudden you realize, oh, there's like 500 rats at my feet that you hadn't really thought about. That was a little weird, but they're just like really, they're pretty nice animals. Really, they're very smart. They know their names, and
Mm, wow.
none of them got hurt. Yeah,
You didn't lose any? No casualties?
nope. You know, if we're doing it now, I don't know how much all of it would be CGI. That's probably the preference and the but we didn't have that then, that technology.
Well,
How was
nicely
that?
done. I mean, I didn't. Oh, sorry, Ben. I just wanted to say I didn't even notice the CGI in it. I thought nicely done. Go ahead,
Oh,
Ben.
thanks. You know, and then all that stuff with the Ben attack. I think Jim Wong shot the second unit on that, and you're just like, the rats just were great.
Awesome.
How was Crispin with the rats? Did he mind them, or was he pretty?
No, he, he and I really got along. We have, it's like he's an artist,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
he can have he can get some ideas that are like, no, 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 we're not doing that. He was great. He was great with the rats. And he's an artist. He was always like, the two of us would always do battle on, not battle, but well, in Cuckoo's Nest this, and McMurphy died, and he's like, no, but McMurphy lived because he lived in the spirit of the chief, and like, we'd all like be like going, and he really knows his cinema. I just thought he was the best.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I think he's amazing in the role.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
close up of his eyes, and he really owned that part. It was very believable, very creepy. I enjoyed the
Yeah,
movie.
he's always like, oh, thank you. He's always, I love the guy.
Brilliant.
Let's see. Ben, is it your turn? I forget.
Yeah, well, I was gonna rewind to 1986 for Trick or Treat, and I was just gonna ask, what was it like being on the set of that movie? Because to me, when I watch that, I get the proper nostalgic 80s horror movie feel from that. It is
And the
proper.
music's great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
And
So I
before
was
you
just
answer,
wondering
Glenn, yeah, before you answer, I just wanted to say Ben and I did a Halloween special recently, and we asked our viewers what their favorite movie is to watch in October, and someone chose Trick or Treat 1986.
yeah.
That wasn't me, was it?
No, it wasn't you. No, no.
I know, you know what? I love everybody. Charlie Martin Smith. He taught me so much about how to behave on set. He taught me a lot about shooting. I later on was able to hire him. I did a show, Space Above and Beyond. I hired him for a couple episodes, and I just think the world of him. Michael Murphy and Joel Soissons were friends of ours. They produced it. I got to meet Dino De Laurentiis. I flew
Wow.
to North Carolina with Gene Simmons and watch Ozzy Osbourne shoot that day. And all those people are all friends. Doug Savant, who played the bad guy, Jim and I are friends with him and used him a lot. But I don't understand. That movie's goofy.
It
I don't
is.
know. I don't get it.
It's got a following.
It
I
does.
actually rewatched it recently too.
Good.
Let's see. Well, we do have a lot of viewer questions, but before we get to that, and I don't want to steal anyone's thunder because we do have a lot of questions about Final Destination. I've heard that Final Destination originally was supposed to be about adults and not teenagers. Can you say a little bit about, is there truth to that? And how did it evolve into a younger cast?
This has recently become a little controversial.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But Jim, from my standpoint, and Jim Wong as well, we're close writing partners, and at the time, we were sent. At that time, a lot of places were looking for X-Files writers, and we get sent a treatment that neither one of us ever got through, like 3 pages. Death was like the Igmar Bergman.
Okay. Okay.
Had a sickle, and then there was a small town sheriff trying to catch him, and I'm like, no. And our agent couldn't talk us into going over there. I don't know. We had other things that were just arrogant. I don't know. I don't remember. And then our big agents like, you're going to New Line. You got to talk to them. So this is probably wrong. My memory's like on the way. Jim and I are like, what do you do with this? And I'm like, well, you can't defeat death. That's stupid. And how are you going to personify it? Let's not. And later, I think I realized how influenced or how the Omen sequence is lodged in my head, especially Omen 2.
Great movie.
So, we met with these guys, Brian Whitten and Richard Brenner, and said, you never see death and you can't kill it and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, yeah. I've been told later that Jeff Reddick might have proposed the same thing. We never heard about that. So the way to do that, the Rube Goldberg thing, as people say, was all stuff to try to get around how silly it would be to try to personify death. So sorry, and to answer the question, that treatment probably had all adults, and my assumption would be that the studio, horror movies at that time had gotten away from The Omen and The Exorcist, where adults went, and they were so, can this be teenagers? And that's how that probably came about.
Cool. Excellent. Well, and Ben and I often say that it's what you don't see that's scariest, and you don't see death, but
without
it's
question, we're talking about Jaws. You don't see the shark for halfway through it.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's what made the film so more effective, I think.
Right. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you there, but any opportunity to talk about Jaws, I'm taking it.
It's Ben's favorite movie. He's got like
It's
a shrine to Jaws, all kinds of collectibles. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, before we get to viewer questions, Ben, do you have one last question, or do you want to jump into? It seemed like you were going to ask something.
No, I'll just keep looking over for the questions. I actually found them this time. So,
good.
No, we can go for it.
Prepared. Okay, awesome. So Glenn, we actually got 12.
If I'm long-winded, just tell me to shut up.
We got 12 viewers who gave us questions. 12 viewers to give us questions, so we're just going to jump right into it. The first one is from Josh at Josh_Kingstagram. Thank you, Josh. He said, do you have any plans to return to Final Destination, and how do you feel about a potential requel?
I don't. Jim and I, I think Final Destination is really Craig Perry's baby. He's the one that's been there from 1 to now they're going to do 6. I look forward to 6. Stuff. I heard about how the directors got the job. They did a Zoom with all kinds of effects where things are falling on them, or they look like they were going to die. I didn't see it, but it sounded great, and
that's cool.
Just really look forward to it. But awesome. I don't. Just let other voices come in and have their say.
See what they can do. Fair enough. Good answer. All right, Ben, over to you.
This is from CJ from Irish K-Popper. She's asked, did you think Final Destination would be so popular and have as many sequels? First of all, and then the second question was, what's your favorite kill in Final Destination? So I don't know how you want to answer those. I should have probably asked you one at a time.
No, I did not know it would be so popular. We had a test screening down at the beach, San Pedro or something, and the movie was different, had a different ending. All of us had agreed it was like the best way to not defeat death was to continue with life, and the Ellie Larder character had become pregnant, and it's more of an ending we would have done on X-Files. But when we saw the preview, it was like the life just went out of the room. And at the end, Bob Shea, the founder of New Line, came up to us and goes, hey guys, I think you got some work to do, but I think we got a hit. And I was like, we do? The last, and so we did a new thing where Kerr got hit by the sign at the end, and then we're off to the races. So I was thrilled that it was. It was weird to, we weren't involved in that sequel at all, but David Ellis had invited us to the premiere at the Cinema Dome to to see it was just kind of weird, you know? I mean, great weird. It was like I never thought about it. A sequel or something you did that would make someone want to do it again. That was thrilling. And my favorite kill, I don't know. It's like everyone will think I'm a sociopath, but I really I enjoy Kristen's um death, Mrs. Luton with the mug and the thing, just because
Oh
I
yeah, yeah,
remember
yeah.
shooting it and it was just kind of funny. I did a lot of the second unit stuff on the tanning bed thing, and I'm like, wow, this is gonna wow, this could be fun. And that was like one of the worst weeks of my life because
Oh
um
no.
it's just like setting people on fire. It's just I don't want anybody to get hurt. And I would go, camera goes here, and they had this stuff. It was like a recent invention sort of thing where basically it's almost like the level of Vaseline. And you would put that, you know, because before you had to have fire suits and they're
Yeah, the
bulky and you
suits.
couldn't
Yeah.
hide them. But this was like a thing that one of the stunt guys had come a mixture and he made in his garage. And you put it over the skin, and then the stunt people, you had, I don't know, 10 seconds or longer, whatever. And they would go hot, and then the other stunt people would come in and extinguish them. And so that period where you went action to hot and they were put out was very stressful. I didn't want anybody to get hurt, you know. It was,
Oh
and
gosh.
those are
Yeah.
hard movies to shoot, you know.
Mm.
But it takes a lot of patience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I like the tanning bed death scene is one of the best, I think.
Thanks.
Let's see, over to me again. This is from Red.eye Reviews, so Red Eye Reviews. What do you think about the cult following Black Christmas has gained over the years? I've always been a huge fan of your remake, and I'm glad it's getting the love it deserves. And will Black Christmas ever get a Blu-ray release?
I have no idea about the Blu-ray release. I don't know who owns it. The Weinsteins owned it.
Hmm.
They went bankrupt, which I have those papers over my desk.
Oh, nice.
I see the Lionsgate. I think, you know, it was on one of these streaming sites. I'm like, what's this? And then I saw I think it was like the Lionsgate logo. That's all news to me. So I don't know who controls it. The fact that it is kind of getting some attention is thrilling to me. I wish that it was, you know, okay, let's look at that right there.
Okay, I have the
No,
blockbuster release.
right. Yeah. You know, like, you know, we have a lot of we have a great cast.
Oh,
Later
for
on, I
sure,
saw like
definitely.
some terrific artwork that was done. You can see it online. And then like that Bob just puts this person who's not in the movie kind of being sodomized. I don't get that at all.
Mm,
That artwork makes me nuts. But
yeah.
I'm happy that it's getting attention, you know, primarily for the cast. I'm told that has a very big gay following, which I'm really proud of. And I ask why,
Oh, I didn't know
and no
that.
one really, I can't explain it to me, but um, I'm thrilled.
Awesome. Good answer. Well, we will hold out for a Blu-ray release.
Definitely.
All right, back to you,
Right.
Ben. I think we've got Matt up next.
Matt from Matt Loves Movies. His first question is, where did you get the idea for the sunbed sequence in Final Destination Part 3?
Oh, so okay, you're gonna do the Final Destination 3, and then the executives goes, it's a roller coaster. That's all we're given. I think Jim and I came up with the camera thing to try to expand it. And so then you start going, what are the deaths going to be? And everybody around you start giving you ideas. And in the interim, you go, yeah, if I was doing Final Destination, that would be a death scene. So, pardon me, Kristen Cloak, my wife, who is Mrs. Luton in the first one, she's like, you got to do a tanning bed scene. I'm like, no, no. She's like, no, all the girls did it and you got to go and it's really creepy. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I just totally blew it off. And then she made me go down to this tanning salon on Fairfax and Beverly. And yeah, it was like, I was so uncomfortable. It was so creepy. I was like, I got out of there, got my car, came back in here, and then like wrote that scene in 20 minutes.
That's awesome.
So it's all her idea.
His second question is, he said, I am a huge fan of the 2006 Black Christmas. Do you have any other scripts you're working on that focus on teen slashers, basically? Have I read that right?
Oh yeah,
Yep.
no, I haven't. Y- Um, no, I have some stuff. It's not that's out there, but it's not slasher. I think I think that original Black Christmas to me gave birth to the slasher movies, but not in the way that it,
Mhm.
it became.
Mm.
Cool.
I think we got, yep, go ahead.
One more. Is it true that the Black Christmas is based upon the real life murders?
Not that I know of. You'd have to ask Bob, who's no longer with us. And but there's a story in Los Angeles up on Los Feliz. There was a back in the 50s. I think he was a heart doctor who like snapped and he poisoned his wife and kids and a couple escaped. And then that house for like years
Oh
until
my
like the
gosh.
last 10 years, it just sat up there. And the word was you could like go in and see the aluminum Christmas tree and the presents, and there was like cans of SpaghettiOs and stuff. It was like really,
Yikes.
really creepy.
That
Yeah.
is
Cool.
creepy.
But that's not Black Christmas is not based on that.
Wow. Great story. Let's see, back to me. This is Jose from Jose Movies 86. So thank you, Jose. The flesh cookie cutter scene is the craziest part of the movie, which I love, which I love, he said. How did you get the idea for flesh Christmas cookies?
I have no idea. It just seemed like a pretty disturbing thing. And that idea of those cookie cutters, like when you put it in the dough and just transferred over to that. And I remember the story of that was like when we were shooting it, the prop guy had a fail and it just wasn't right. It just
Mm,
the whatever it was not right. And I was like, oh no. And we're all ready to go and we don't have the money to come back in a couple days, whatever. And like, we're in Vancouver and the production designer and guys like running out to markets to try to find 24-hour markets to get that meat to be whatever the hangy or kind
yeah,
of
yeah. Ugh.
much more creepy. The way what the original thing that we prop that we had was not creepy. So that was like run out to the store, send some PAs and some art department people to come back in order to do that, a couple hours later. That's what I just remember.
Cool. Well, Jose also asked about if you'd ever want to do a future Final Destination movie, and I think we already talked about that. So why don't we can move on? But thank you, Jose, for the questions.
Yeah.
And Ben, over to you.
Ryan from Plumgood Co. has asked, have you ever cheated death? And if not, where did you get the FD concept inspiration come from? What was that right? Where
I
did you
think
get the
so.
Final Destination concept? Yeah.
Yeah, where did it come from?
I
I love
don't
that.
I don't know if I've escaped death other than working for Bob Weinstein, but you know, when you go, oh, hey, you don't see death, it would just be a force. And Witten and Brenner were like, oh, that's great. And you go, okay, what are we gonna do? And if you're a writer, there's a lot of things you go through life and you put them up in your head and you hope that someday you can, do it. And in a movie. And so one time I went to the Hollywood Bowl here in Los Angeles in the summer. It's an outdoor event and you can get any like 18,000 people and it's like really crowded and it's a great thing. And a whole bunch of people, 50, 100 people, I don't know, are waiting across Cahuenga to the parking lot and you're waiting for the light. And this is years before Final Destination. I'm standing there and you're in your own world talking to your family, whatever. And the guy next to me goes to take a step to cross the street. And the guy behind him just grabs the back of him and pulls him back. And then a bus goes, boom,
Oh,
and everybody around us went like
yikes.
as if the guy really got hit. And just the kind of visceral reaction to that just always like lodged with me. And so you're sitting in a room with Jim Wong going, what are we going to do? And I'm like, oh, one thing, we should do that bus thing. And you just like get to do it. And then the rest of it is like, just trying to, sit there and figure stuff out. What would be creepy? Jim and I prefer in our movies to do stuff that people are going to come across. So I think that
Mhm.
the Mrs. Luton character, Kristen's character in her house, when you're just going to have a drink and put on a record, how could that
How
lead to
could that go
something?
wrong? Right, right.
Right, in the Final Destination 3, I spent 3 days at the Home Depot on Sunset Boulevard trying to figure out how could this go to this, if that fell, go to here. And then I learned like certain chemicals have to be stored apart because if they fell and mixed, everybody would be
Together.
killed. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So, it's just writer stuff. You just sit there and kind of figure out what would be cool.
Must be
Awesome.
super fun though, just to try and think of these.
Go
Dead.
go to Home Depot and think, how could someone die?
Well, that was around it was a couple years after, 9/11, and no one came up to me going, "What are you doing, mister?"
What are you doing with that axe?
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
I do love, before I go back to the questions, I do love that kill, the bus kill in the first one, right? Doesn't she say something like, you can drop fucking dead?
right.
Boom.
Well, I think two things
Perfect.
about that is like you see there's like the street, there's a
Mhm.
big crane. There's
Mm.
no way a bus is getting through there. I don't know what was going on that day. That wasn't ours, and so people like forget about it. It's well established. And when we shot it, it was a dummy of Amanda. And when we
Mm.
shot it, we looked at the dailies, it just didn't work. And we're all like bummed out and going, how are we gonna do this?
Yep.
And the editors, Logan and Jim Koblenz, came back the next day and they had used the bus as a wipe and they showed us in the trailer and we're like, whoa. It was just so I give credit to the editors for putting that together well. And then
That's
you have to have, I think,
fantastic.
reactions of people. And so the reaction of Kristen getting blood on her, and I think her and Devin have a reaction
Jump
too.
back.
Those were
Oh yeah.
extra things we got so that the
Mhm.
audience
Oh yeah.
sort of knows
I
how.
jumped the first time I saw it. The whole theater did as well.
It was great. We had our friend Gary, he went to like a matinee and I don't think he'd know anything. He's like, all of a sudden the ushers come down and line the side. People who worked at the theater are lining the walls. And he's like, is this a bomb threat? What's going on here? And then the bus thing happens. And the ushers just knew when that bit was so that they could watch everybody freak out
Oh, they were
and then
coming
get
in
back
to
to work.
watch.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, we digress a little bit, but that was a fun chat. Let's see.
Yeah.
Back to me. This is Keith from Nerdy Movie Lover. He said, do you still, I guess this would apply to maybe any of the cast from Black Christmas, but do you still keep in touch with Mary Elizabeth Winstead? And what was it like working with her?
Well, Mary was great. And, of course, they did Final Destination 3. And what happened was we're getting ready to do Black Christmas. It was coming, and we were shooting Final Destination 3, and for some reason I go to catch a plane late at night at the Vancouver airport,
Mhm.
and when I went up to the gate, there's Mary. I think my memory is like we're the only ones there, and she's like, "What's going on with Black Christmas?" I'm like, "You want to be in it? Pick your part,"
Oh,
because
that's
she's just the
awesome.
best. She knows her lines. She's there on time. We became close with her.
That's great.
First husband and everything, and they're just like I couldn't say enough, great stuff about her.
Hmm.
And
Awesome.
yeah, Crystal Lowe she's just finished directing a Hallmark movie, so she's kind of writing and directing.
Oh, cool.
Kristen's here and Kristen is writing, and we write a lot of stuff together. There's a show called Intruders that Millie Bobby Brown was 10 years old. I really am proud of that show. The last I saw was on Hulu, and that
I'll
has a
check it
lot of
out.
good yeah, that has a lot of good creepy stuff. Millie Brown is extraordinary, and John Sim, who's known for Life on Mars and being the master in
Oh yeah.
Doctor Who. I think that has a lot of creepy good stuff in it.
Cool. Intruders on Hulu. I'll check it out.
Yeah, I so wandered. I just want to reiterate, Mary's just the best.
Awesome. Ben, over to you. I think we're getting down to the end a little bit.
From Anthony's movies, Sarah Garbage. Is that right?
His movies are garbage. Anthony's movies are garbage.
Yeah,
That's his handle. I don't
yeah,
know.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to that site.
Yeah. And he's asked, is there anything you regret not having, anything you regret having to cut from Black Christmas?
Yeah, the last shot. You know, as we mentioned before, in doing a remake, how can you, what things have come about that can allow you to maintain the essence of the original, but maybe either technology or attitudes have changed. And so to me, everyone kind of credits, what is it, when a stranger calls or something? But I think that the call is coming from the house, to me, is from Black Christmas.
Mhm.
So at the end, we had a great thing where Katie Cassidy was in bed in the hospital, and Kristen was there, and she had an envelope of her personal effects, and then her cell phone rings. And then it was like Billy or Agnes or something. And so you can pull away from the hospital bed, like the killer is still around. And instead of the call coming from in the house, we all have mobile phones now. And it was just like a nice shot. And I love the way that ended. And then they, like, at that time, there was a lot of
Mm.
what's known as torture porn was popular, and Bob Weinstein was like, no, blah blah blah, and argued, and I lost, and I really regret not being able to maintain the ending that we set out to do.
Yeah, the ending is definitely over the top. The
Not a lot of Bob Weinstein love on this podcast
Yeah,
today.
no, we didn't even plan that.
Yeah.
Back to me. Let's see. Where are we? This is William from Old But Not Obsolete. He said, do you see
That's me.
do you see the Final Destination franchise going into television episodes?
I brought it up to an executive
Hmm.
once, but they had as executives say, a lot of planes on the runway, and they had other franchises that they were going to do in TV, so it didn't really get any traction.
Too bad. That'd be good. All right, Ben, back to
Yeah,
you.
I think television format would allow you to,
You could do a lot with it, right?
yeah, well, with the characters, like what people are really afraid of,
Mhm.
things like that. You could spend time, a little more time with character.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Cool. I think we're up to Chris.
Yep. Chris from the Dark Lodge.
Mhm.
Were there any complications or strange stuff happening during the filming of Final Destination?
Yeah, I thought not anything. I don't have anything good like they all say on The Exorcist. All these people that
Haunted.
died, all that stuff. Nothing that good. My only, this is not that weird, but my thing is like you didn't have a lot of CGI. We made the roller coaster bigger, but you didn't have it to augment stuff. So I did a lot of second unit. It was just like, okay, let's do it again. Take 50, just to have a hammer drop on a gear shift or something. And so the bit was the roller coaster tube. The camera is supposed to come down and swing around and lodge.
Okay.
That was the shot. There's probably some special effects wires that help do that, but then we're all going, oh, this is going to take forever. And they actually started a plastic bag, and people threw like $5 in and said, I bet take 25. Everybody wagered on what take it would be. And I was like really prepared for like take 50 or 60 and then take one. Whoop.
And
I
you
don't think
got it.
anybody had bet take one. So no one wants money.
That's awesome. Okay, we got 3 more viewer questions. This is
I'm sorry, I'm so long. I'm like,
No,
gonna
this
break
is
the
great.
record. Cut me out.
And no, this is amazing. Your answers are perfect. This is Miguel from Darth Miguel 89. So thank you, Miguel. Let's see. How did you go about making Black Christmas your own and not just a copy of the original? Or did you always want to remake it in a modern way? Why don't we go with that one first?
Well, I really want to go. I don't know where it came from. It's kind of I'm aware of what family means to people.
Mhm.
My favorite horror movies, Psycho and The Exorcist, are about the horror of happening to a family. There's an X-Files that Jim and I are most known for. Well, this mother was under the bed, and just like such a reaction to it. And so in approaching Black Christmas, I really wanted the themes of like, who are our family? So you had a sorority and these girls seem like their family, and
Hmm.
Kristen was coming looking for her sister, and you know, the background of Billy and Agnes were that their parents weren't that great, and you know, and who's their family. And so you hear that line, "You're my family now," is something that in our house my kids continue to as a running joke in the Morgan house. And so those themes are something, you know, to explore that I felt weren't in the first one. That's what I was looking to do. That's how I would make it
Excellent.
my own.
Yeah, and I think you definitely succeeded there. Okay, Ben, do you want to do Mike? Got two more, although they have a few questions, but we'll touch upon the ones that we
Yeah.
can.
Okay, should I just ask a couple from Mike and then you can ask? Or
Yeah,
did you
maybe
want
go with the
more?
first two.
The X-Files and Millennium took very different approaches to horror TV. As a writer for both, what did you see as the key distinction in both script writing?
You know, Millennium was created by Chris Carter, who of course created the X-Files, and I think in Millennium he was really looking to push
Hmm.
what TV could do. I mean, how that show was on network television now would certainly be on a streamer. I think the difference in approach is the X-Files is very much you know, an other. There's aliens, there's super soldiers, it's us against them, and the evil and the darkness is coming from others, and you're trying to defeat it. I think in Millennium, it's really coming from us. You know, it's a very human, deranged psychologies that we're, you know, do you recognize it in us? And even in the second year, when we turned it more into like doomsday cults, it was still trying to people imagining the end of the world as opposed to a force causing the end of the world, I think.
Hmm.
Does that make sense? Direct,
Yeah, no, I think that,
coherent?
yeah, totally.
Okay.
Why don't we do one more from Mike? How did your Twilight Zone reboot hope to set itself apart from the original?
I'm not just saying this to be politically right. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed whatever it was, 6 weeks in a writer's room with Jordan Peele. The
For
way that
sure.
he went
Yeah.
about it, that was like 9:30. Hey, we're gonna start at 9:30. Come in at 9:25. He was at the table looking at his phone, and at 9:30, he's like, okay, now in Act 3, you didn't talk about the Lakers or Trump or, you know, writers like waste, you know, they don't do anything until lunch, and then they go to lunch and they come back, and then they don't do anything until 3 o'clock. We worked, and he would
Nonstop.
come back the next day and go, maybe this is a better idea. So I really admire him a great deal. I felt that you know, the original Twilight Zone is sacred ground to me. I mean, there's the Richard Matheson who wrote, you know, Duel and the Omega Man kind of and all that stuff. He's just like, those are sacred writers to me, and Rod Sterling, of course. And I Twilight Zone was much more, the original had much more, you know, sweat and terror, people facing the abyss. And I don't know if we were really, and they're political, and we were not really encouraged to do any of that.
Mm, okay.
So
Awesome.
Awesome.
We have some last minute questions, and then we'll wrap up. This is from Stuart Robertson at Spastastically Funkster Stew. And he's also from, isn't that great? He's also from
yeah.
Hollow Ground Pictures. So he is a writer and director. Let's
Oh.
see. And actually, we just talked about this a little bit, but he said, I love the idea of the original ending where the girls receive the phone call at the end, where it aligns more with the original ending. When you wrote this ending, did you have plans for a sequel? And if so, where would you have taken it?
I would never have thought of that. I'm sure that, you know, that ending permits it, but I never really thought. I can't
Yeah.
think that far ahead.
Okay, fair enough. One more question. Let's see. We hear stories of Francis Ford Coppola revisiting his films. If you had the chance, would you revisit Black Christmas for a new cut? And if so, is there anything you would change? I think seeing the film in a slick black and white version would be badass. Has anyone said that before?
It's interesting. Dean Friss, who played Agnes,
Hmm.
who I first met Dean when he was a assistant camera that he was in Focus, and Dean is like cinephile, and so I'm like, well, I want this shot should be like that thing in The Shining when Nicholson's looking up. They're looking up at Nicholson, and then Dean can go, Mr. Morgan, that was shot with a 40 millimeter lens, and the f-stop was, he just knows all that stuff. And I totally forget why I'm
Oh, a new cut of the.
oh yeah, no, oh sorry. He did that. He did it was like a black and white version with like kind of Schindler's Listy where only the color red came through. And he put in the
Oh,
original ending, and it was just like really great. And it's just kind of a gift he gave me. And
that would be cool.
it looks pretty great. And so I don't know where the materials are or whatever.
Hmm,
It was not a pretty ending
that's too bad.
when we were done. I really wanted to release that film a few weeks before Christmas, and Bob was like, no, we're releasing it on Christmas Day. And I'm like, Christmas Day? I'm done with Christmas.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't want anything to do with it. It should come out like the recent Blumhouse movie had a proper release time. You can
Oh,
come
of
back from
course.
college and hang out with friends. And so anyway, it was I would love to remove the stuff that Bob put on me.
Well, whoever owns it owns the rights. If they do a Blu-ray release, you could put the black and white version with just the color red in it. So if you're
Yeah,
watching,
yeah.
Yeah.
just gave you
We'll
some
call Dean.
ideas. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for chatting
Sorry
with
I
us
went too
today.
long. I'm like rambled.
That's
No, not
cool.
at all. This has been great.
So-
It's been an honor to chat with you. You're very impressive resume. We love the films you've done.
Thank you.
This has been great. So,
I've got one more question.
oh, go ahead, Ben.
I'll ask, if given the chance to do another remake of a classic horror, is there anything you'd like to choose yourself?
Well, interesting question. I don't know, not offhand. I mean, it's like Willard when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Bruce Davison was my first favorite actor. I mean, that movie I saw repeatedly. I got to work with him on a show later,
Oh, cool.
The Best Guy. And so it was just like kind of a thing where, and I live walking distance to the house where they shot Willard.
Yeah.
And
Oh, awesome.
yeah, but I can't think of anything offhand. I think like just kind of leave it be.
Yep. Cool. I thought I'd
With
ask.
with the holidays upon us, what's one movie you watch every December?
Every December,
Mhm.
every Thanksgiving I watch Hannah and Her Sisters,
Oh, nice.
and
It's a good one.
and Thanksgiving, Christmas, not every year, but a lot I would watch. It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, of course. Yes. All
None of
right.
those are horror answers, but
I wondered if you'd say Black Christmas, but that's one I
watch
watch
my
every
own
year.
movies. I know. Why am I going to watch Black
No,
Christmas
no.
when I can watch Clockwork Orange?
Exactly. All right. Well, this has been awesome. Let's see. Before we go, how can folks find you on social media?
They can't.
They can. There you go. Perfect.
You can write to Kristen. I don't know what she's at, but
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us. Ben, do you want to?
thank you. Thanks for having. You guys are really horror horror focused podcasts and media. They're really like such intelligent fans. I wish that you guys were the executives pushing like which movies would get greenlit. You really
So
know
do
your
we.
history
That would
and
be
know
amazing.
what makes it work. And
Mhm.
it's a pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ben, do you want to do the closing?
Go to Instagram, follow us over there at AMB Horrors. And if you come across this channel or you are on our Instagram, you'll see that we are on YouTube, and come over and give us a like and subscribe on here because it helps the channel.
Excellent.
Now, what don't you have an Arsenal match to watch? Isn't that on in a minute?
I don't think there is.
No.
On Monday.
Awesome. Well, Thank
All right,
you.
thanks, you guys.
Bye,
All
everyone.
right, goodbye.